Coaches, welcome. Episode 22 of the Counterculture Podcast. Myself, Coach Tatum. We're extremely excited to welcome a longtime friend of mine, phenomenal football coach, phenomenal person, Coach Brad Watkins. We worked together at Old Dominion way back in the day. I actually worked for him at Old Dominion, I should say. So really excited to be able to get him on and kind of talk about his story and then also talk a little bit of football. But again, episode 22, happy to have you. Thank you for everybody for joining us. Make sure you check in the comments. Let us know where you're from. Let us know what school you coach at and any questions you may have. Coach, how we doing tonight?
Man, I'm doing great. It's good to be back on here with you, or be on here for the first time, I guess, and see your face. It's been a couple years.
I know.
And it's crazy when you think about where we started. Those little cubicles right there at Old Dominion. So
yeah. Coach Tatum, how you doing tonight?
Man, I'm good. Loving life, man. Who knows? We thought we were gonna get another 2-hour delay because when I left you in Charlotte. Literally Monday, 2 hour. We were out of school on Monday, out of school on Tuesday. Wednesday is a 2-hour delay. Thursday, today was a 2-hour delay. I was like, man, just make it the trifecta. Get us out early on Friday. So haven't gotten that call yet, but man, ready for the weekend. Just big plans coming up in the next couple of weeks, but loving it, man.
You talk about a disappointing situation for us. They're saying like Hereford's going to get 4 or 5 inches. And I'm just thinking, like, man, we ain't going to school at all next week.
Yeah.
And then I wake up Saturday at the clinic. The wife sends me a picture of the backyard, and there's like 1 patch of snow. And I was just like, you've got to be kidding me, man.
Yeah.
So they wound up going up to Chesapeake to my in-laws' house so my son could play in the snow or whatever. And they had like, I don't know, maybe an inch. But everybody's just like, yeah, Hereford's going to shut down, this and that. And I mean, it's obviously super country. So I was just like, man, like they ain't gonna be able to get no buses on them back roads. And then they got buses every single day since. So
we got like 3 or 4 inches down here in Atlanta. So everything shut down for a couple of days.
Look, I'm telling you, it's so hit or miss here. I feel like I'm sure it's just like a southeast thing, whatever you want to call it. But like, my gracious, everybody was talking about it. Like, admin, our AD, all that. Like we had a home basketball game Friday night. They moved it to Thursday, like all that stuff. And then no such luck for us. No such luck.
Yeah, it's much ado about nothing. And even though, and Coach and I were talking about this before you got on, like the one next week, it's, until, like I told him, until I see it fall from the sky, I'm this business as usual. Let's keep rolling.
Right. My thing is like, if it's going to be cold, at least give us something.
Yeah.
If I'm walking out of the house in the morning and it's 18 degrees, like, give me something. Something. But Coach Watkins, do us a favor for everybody watching. Just give us a little bit of background on you, where you're from, kind of your coaching journey and all that stuff, just to fill everybody in.
All right, can do. We only got an hour, right? Because that coaching journey is a long one.
Hey, we got all the time you need.
Yep.
Well, you talk
I can't speak for Tatum, sorry.
Yeah, it's all right. You talk about snow. I'm originally from right in between Rochester and Buffalo, New York. So snow is no thing for me. Was a 4-year player up there. Graduated high school, ended up going to Ohio Northern as a player. So I got into the OAC, got to go against, Mount Union, John Carroll, some of those higher upper echelon D3 schools. Of course, beat them my senior year, snapped a 110-game win streak. Not that I remember anything. And from there, graduated, actually started as an engineer and realized I didn't want to find forces and vectors. I just want to build something. If it didn't work, then I'd rebuild it. They were like, yeah, you should find something else to do. So I got to do a bonus lap, come back for a 5th year to finish up my education degree. When I graduated, I ended up going down to Hampton, Virginia. I got a job there at Hampton High School. Was there for a full season full school year, in the high school. Worked for Coach Smith, which he put you through. My first coaching job in the high school ranks, and to understand kind of where what he demanded and things like that was it was eye-opening. There's no doubt. We get through that year. I thought I wanted to give college football a try. I liked it. Thought I liked it. So I got a GA position out at University of Wisconsin-Platteville. Was there for a few weeks. Some things fell through. Ended up coming back to Virginia. Taught at the Warwick High School feeder school. Excuse me. Still worked over at Hampton for a year. And that gets us to about 2010. Then I started my master's, got at Old Dominion. That's where obviously, Rap, you and I met. Was there 10, 11, and 12. End of the 12 year, went up to Ohio Northern, back there as a coach, was there for 2 seasons up in Northwest Ohio. From there, I went to Southwest Ohio, was at Wilmington College, was there 15, 16, 17. I know I'm getting old when I got to start recounting it. We had a coaching change and some things happened there. So ended up going from there to Nichols College up in Massachusetts. Was there for 2 seasons. Then went to Sacred Heart University in Connecticut, Fairfield, Connecticut. Was there 19, 20, obviously COVID happened. And then in 21, my wife, she's a lacrosse coach. She's a college lacrosse coach. So she got the chance to come back home. She's originally from right outside of Atlanta. So we came down here, spent the 21-22 season at Cedartown High School. And then the last 2 years I've been at Campbell High School right outside of Atlanta, Georgia. So journeyman to say the least, boys.
I didn't know that your wife coached too.
Yeah. So
That's
she's
cool.
the head women's lacrosse coach at Oglethorpe University. So right outside of Atlanta.
That's awesome.
What's the, I guess, kind of jump straight into what's the biggest thing you've seen just being up north, seeing that ball, from New York, you coach in Connecticut, you've been in Ohio, and just being in Georgia now. Everybody knows how big Georgia football is, and Ohio football is big at that. What's kind of the biggest differences you'd see?
I'd say the biggest difference I see is that when I came out as a player, I had no idea what the heck I was doing. I was a middle linebacker, and I was just see ball, get ball, kind of a Labrador retriever. But no, throughout the time in being in Ohio, being in Georgia, it's just different as far as, obviously Ohio doesn't have it, I don't think still, but we have spring ball down here like you guys do. They don't have that in other places. So it's definitely important here in the South. Player development's much more important. At least I feel that way a little bit. Now I know it's not, coaches, I'm not saying it's not important up there, but to the fact where you're getting spring ball, you're getting the opportunity to be around the guys. I can remember being in Mass and Connecticut, and if we had kids that actually came out to spring ball at the college level, that was awesome. That was great. It just wasn't as important to them. The other thing too is I think that just being able to reach the kids is a little bit different in some levels, because the fact that, up in, let's say, Connecticut or Mass, yes, those guys are looking for the next opportunity, but also some of them may just be like, I'm just going to go to work, whereas down here, some guys are trying to necessarily kind of improve situations a little bit. Again, not that they're not in everywhere and in every place, and there's always situations like that. But I think that's the biggest thing is just, the schools are behind you. They're trying to make things better and give you what you can to be successful. Everybody's trying to chase that ring at the end of or middle of December there.
Right. So tell us a little bit about the high school that you're at, like classification, all that stuff.
Yep. So Campbell High School is actually the 5th largest school in Georgia.
Wow.
We are the biggest classification, which last year was 7A. Now they reclassed everything. So 6A is the largest, which is what we are. We've got 3,200 kids in the building to 3,300, somewhere in there roughly. Obviously fluctuates quite a bit. And again, being a suburb of Atlanta, we're kind of all over the place. When you drive on a campus, there's huge, beautiful homes. And then we've got some kids that are McKenna-Venti trying to figure out where their next spot is. So we've got a pretty good array of kids. And again, the community's just been hungry. This year we finished 6-4, which is the first time since 2007 they've had a winning season. So again, just getting everybody to buy in, getting the admin to buy in, the student pop to buy in, the community, they're hungry for it. So it's been good as far as that goes. But yeah, it's a big school. I walk in every day and it takes me about 15 minutes to go from one end to the other, and then I got to go back for PE class. So definitely get my steps in.
Just being in Georgia, like obviously they say, let's just say Atlanta. What is being in Atlanta? I know you're a suburb, but you're near a big city, right?
Yeah.
And we were just out near Charlotte, but you can maneuver Charlotte like that. But anytime you're traveling in the Southeast, you really want to avoid Atlanta. Just traffic. What is that like? Because I couldn't do it. I know your wife was working there, but I just Atlanta, big city, I couldn't do it.
It's actually not bad once you figure it out. And it's not even the schedule, because like 64 up there in the Hampton Roads area, you could never guess when the tunnel was going to be a pain.
That is a fact.
Yeah, but here, obviously we have 285, which goes around the city. 75 and 85 will cut you right through, but there's a lot of the side streets that you can maneuver. So like if your Waze is telling you, hey, it's red right here, you can hop on the street real quick and then, get back to where you got to go. So it's not too bad. Again, anywhere from about 3:30 to 6, you're probably going to hit some traffic, but it's not bad. It moves pretty quick. So overall it's been good. You do have 5 lanes of traffic on quite a bit of those highways. So make sure my New Yorker comes out sometimes, or I got to hit the horn a little bit.
So how far are you from like the city of Atlanta?
Roughly, I can see the Brave Stadium from my backyard.
Oh, wow. That's
so
awesome.
We're pretty close to it. And again, to downtown, it's about a 12 to 15 minute drive. So it's not too bad at all. Right.
What kind of stuff are y'all running down there?
So you'll laugh at this, Wing T. We are Wing T. So at Cedartown, we were true Delaware Wing T. Coach Jamie Abrams brought that there. We had a lot of success. Our first year, we ended up going to the semifinals. And then the second year I was there, we went to the finals. We lost 13-14, 4th and 1 on the 1 yard line. So, I'm living in
sleep for 2 months.
But we're Wing T. So when we took over Campbell, Coach Phillips, our head coach, wanted to bring that, which is why he brought me with him. So we were true Delaware Wing T. This year we got more to the gun T stuff. We did have a stable of backs. I think we had 4 to 5 running backs. Then we had a couple B backs that were pretty good. We've got some skill kids too. So we were that, running that. And then going forward, unfortunately, we lost. Most of those running backs were seniors. So we've only got a few backs now. So we're probably going to get more, I'd say more Navy-ish, where you're going to get the 3x1 sets, the 2x2 with the hammer, but still running traditional Wing T, still believing in the Wing T mindset. But it's going to be more of that gun T stuff that I know you guys just went to that clinic. So
yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. As a guy who I coached in like traditional Delaware Wing T for 3 years, and I loved it. Obviously as a high school football coach, like we all know, you got to change from year to year. We had a kid that could spin it the last couple years, and, we'll have a good quarterback this year, but trying to find ways to do, what your kids do well. Right. And it seems like that system, obviously being fairly different than traditional Wing T, but still having Wing T principles, has made understanding it for me a lot easier. There's a lot of things that he may call a Wing T run scheme that's blocked differently, or, something different than what I know is, I guess, quote unquote traditional Wing T.
Yeah.
But I mean, the RPO stuff, all the run game stuff, the amount of tags that he has off of everything. I mean, that clinic was a lot of fun. And I liked, obviously it got smaller because of the snow and everything. But I liked how small it was because, you never felt like you were in a room full of a bunch of people, obviously, because you weren't. But at the same time, you were never in a situation where you're like, okay, I got a question, I don't want to ask it, kind of thing.
Right.
Now, I did have a question that I didn't have time to ask. And I was talking to Tatum about it before, and he was like, all right, guys, thanks. And I was like, oh, okay, cool.
What was your question? What was
Honestly, I don't even remember now.
it? Was that good?
Well, I was gonna ask him like how he controls tempos. That's always a big thing for me, is like how people do that.
Yeah.
And we changed tempo, and we have in the past a little bit, but just trying to find different ways of doing it.
Yeah.
Obviously always trying to get better and stuff like that and learning more. But he just like Simpson's he just seems like a genuinely great person.
Mm-hmm.
And it was cool to be able to support him and what he's doing and all that stuff because of, how good of a person he is. Like there was times that I would randomly message him on Twitter and ask him questions about gun T stuff where he could have very easily said, "Hey, go buy this book."
Yeah.
But instead he's going to answer the question. And, when he says, "Hey, I'll help out however I can," it seems like he's genuine with it. So
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
And, the thing that I like the best about the wing T is, obviously we all have some kind of like if then play calling system, but it's so defined in the wing T offense. Everything that I know about it, that just makes it your thought process so much more clear and easier, on Friday nights when you're calling it and all that stuff, what to prepare and everything like that. So, but yeah, that client, I can't say enough good things about it.
Absolutely. You talk about tempo. So we're a base sugar huddle team, right? We'll hold it till about 10 seconds left on the play clock, sprint up, try to snap it within 3. Well, this year we also installed some kind of one-word tempo calls. So, we hit a big play, hit a shot play. Well, we're going to come right back and go tempo. Everybody line up and go. And that was really good for us. And then at the end of the year, as a staff, we were sitting around talking, and we actually said, hey, we can run those tempo plays from the huddle. So now you're getting a tempo play from the sugar huddle, so that worked out well for us too. So, and I'm with you too on the tempo. We had the ability to, line up in a formation and wait, the old check with me stuff. We've got some of that. So I'm always curious too is, because obviously at Old Dominion, I mean, shoot, we got that first down and away we went.
See ya. No doubt.
And it was all gas, no brakes on that one. But, you get the huddle system, some guys with the shifts and trades and all that, you want to control it that way. So, which was one thing, we had a sophomore quarterback, this year. So in trying to get him to understand, hey, buddy, when that big clock at the end in the end zone says 17, we have a trade, go. Or, hey, if it's got this time, go. So that was one of our challenges with a younger quarterback, is just getting him to understand it. But that's kind of where we are tempo wise.
Yeah, Coach Payne, who just commented, he was at the clinic rep. He's a DC.
Okay.
He's DC at Trinity High School up here. But yeah, I have a buddy, Matthew Bennett, who's at 96 High School in South Carolina. They run the pistol wing T. And they've been doing that. He came from like Clinton, like right there in South Carolina. Like they just won the state championship running the pistol wing T. So it definitely has this merit. I'm a spread guy, but my run game is wing T based. It's mostly gap scheme. So I have a lot of love. And that's why I was there. And so people are like, are y'all running gun T now? I'm like, no, I just wanted to learn how to be more efficient at running my gap scheme stuff. So if you want to play, the best, you better go talk to the best. And what they're doing is really good. And obviously you can see you can be successful with any system if you have the players. But I think the wing T was catered to teams that maybe be a little undersized or might not have the equal talent, and they're still having success, just the way that they do things. So
I don't remember who I heard the quote from, but he was talking about there is a wing T versus spread guys conversation. And the spread guys were like, well, you don't have, the athletes. That's why you're running. He said, no. Now imagine if we had those same athletes running the misdirection and running all that stuff, how much success we'd have. So I always think about that too with, because again, my favorite argument is, well, your kids aren't going to get recruited because of that system. I was like, interesting. I'm pretty sure Auburn ran some counter, some power, buck sweep. I'm sure Clemson's run it when they had a national title. It's like, guys, football's football.
Yeah.
You want to be a championship team, you got to be able to run the ball. The throws are good in there, and you need those too. What they say, you throw to score and run to win.
Yeah,
100%. So when you were, I know you said that you're kind of like moving towards gun T, but when you were more like traditional Delaware Tubby Raymond that kind of wing T. Did you call it the same way that he did with the numbers and all that stuff?
No. So we
I
went.
never understood it.
No, I tried, and I tried to get Coach Abrams, who again studied under a bunch of coaches here in Georgia and worked with a bunch of coaches who were kind of in Roger Holmes' tree and all of those guys. Same thing. Like I tried to dissect it, I tried to understand it, and for me, you know how it is, guys. We have to fully understand it to explain it to the kids to where I couldn't. So like we would just call it a word that have an L and an R in it. So, we would call the formation and we call the play, just to try to make it easier and try to make it so the kids could understand it. The kids could run it fast. So they weren't thinking about it. But no, I didn't do like the 121, 929, all those. We actually had, there was a camp when Coach Herron was at Camden County. They would run a wing T camp at West Georgia. And when you were there, it was all wing T. It was all wing T schools. So like TL Hanna in South Carolina, Coach Tone, and those guys would come down. And that's what they were like, hey, we're running, 121. And I was like, hey, it's my first year running wing T. What are you talking about, man? What is 121? So they're like, oh, that's, this, and this. Like, I got you. Okay.
Yeah. For me, like the biggest thing I struggle with, and we never called it that way at any of the places I coached. And like we ran wing T my freshman and sophomore year of high school, and they never called it like that either. Yeah. And, when we installed the wing T at Hickory my second year, well, we ran it the first year, and then Coach Lou Johnston, who was a big Tubby Raymond guy, came and helped us and reinstall it basically the second year. He was talking about it like when we were in the coaches meetings and he was drawing it up and all that stuff. He would say like, okay, well, he would draw it and say, okay, what do you call this? And Coach Wilson would tell him what we called it. And he was like, okay, well, in wing T terms, this is, and I'm just like, okay, so what does the one mean? What is it like? What does all that stuff mean? Because I mean, I'm the same way. Like, in high school, they called it as like, like the pro I like gap system and all that stuff. So it was like 26 buck sweep or whatever. And then obviously at ODU, everything was words that had an L and an R. And that's how we are here. And that's how I've been since I've been calling plays. And I like that number system. I just never understood it.
No. And I think, you talk to those guys that have been in it basically since day one, it's just second nature to them. So I'm sure with more time devoted to it, definitely could have figured it out. They always would throw me off too when they were like, 120, what was it, 125 at 7 or something like that, talking about they're running it to the 7 tech or running it to the 3. I'm like, yeah, we're going to have to work on that, buddy.
Right.
Yeah. There's a million ways to skin a cat. And I've been in offenses where we were names and we've been numbers and not to the extreme of the wing T. I don't know if it's just the way that I learn or maybe it's just even kids, because kids will learn whatever you emphasize, but
right.
I'm more of just a words person. At the end of the day, like, I mean, I was good at math in school, but I didn't like it. So maybe that's it. But I really have names and I do word association a lot. And I think kids kind of understand that a little more. But like I said, they can learn whatever you emphasize. So
no doubt. There's no doubt. I just never felt confident enough to be up there in front of them and being able to explain what was going on. I'm like, well, coach, what about this? Hold on, let me get back to the book real quick and see what's going on.
Exactly.
Right.
As soon as they see that, they'll see you being confident. They're like,
no doubt.
I don't know if I should be confident in it. So.
Correct. There's no doubt about that. So obviously, I think, as somebody who runs wing T, there's 3 running backs on the field in traditional wing T. So as an offensive coordinator who coaches running backs, now that y'all are moving towards more of a gun T system where, I mean, you could say that there's 2 running backs on the field.
Yeah.
How is it coaching the running back position while being the offensive coordinator? Because, I mean, I feel like you just don't really see that often. Normally it's an O-line coach or a quarterback coach. And I've seen, receiver coaches here and there, but you don't see running back coaches very often.
Yeah. Well, the one thing that I liked, at Old Dominion, obviously, Obviously Coach Scott and Coach Laskowski were always hand in hand, right? O-line and running backs go hand in hand. Got to know the pass game, got to know the run game, things like that. So I actually think it helps me being able to fact that I'm involved with all of it,
That makes sense.
And we've got a couple. We've got 2 O-line coaches. We've got our quarterbacks coach, receivers coach, and another running backs coach. So I'm able to kind of leave those guys in groups, and we do small group stuff and go bounce around and make sure that everything is kind of going. But it's funny. The running backs will tell you, if you go outside where the block's supposed to be, you're OIO, baby. You're on your own. You got to stay right inside those blocks, stay right tight with it. Or coach is going to get on you about it. So I actually, like I said, I think it's helped me throughout my career to understand that. There was a point. So I've only actually coached the offensive line for 1 year when I was at Nichols, but I was also the special teams coordinator. So unfortunately, I felt like I lost 20, 25 minutes a day working with those guys because I had to go, do the special teams. But obviously being with the running backs, you can now send them with the O-line coaches. You can do that if you have other responsibilities and things like that. But because they're tied on a string and those 2 positions got to go together, I think it helps a lot. And obviously with the wing tee, you've got your halfbacks, you've got your fullback or your B-back. I think the halfbacks, obviously, we did a pretty good job. I feel like at Campbell, where the kids, for the most part, understood the left or right halfback. Cedartown, we did that second year, and the first year the kids were picking it up. But to me, it always was amazing. I was like, well, what do you do on the backside of buck sweep if you're in this spot? Well, I do this. Okay, so if we flip you and now you're the front side, what are you doing? And just that learning piece where those kids are like, but I'm usually the backside halfback. Okay, well, now you're the front side, big dog. It's the same thing. What would you do away with it? So being able to really teach, yes, it's 3 backs and only 2 technical positions, but being that it was 3, have those guys and understanding it. So,
yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think there's some positions that it's just more difficult to coordinate and coach those. Like offensive line, it's tough. It's hard.
Yeah.
Been doing it. Like it's hard. But I think running backs and then that tight end H-back group, or however wing or whatever you want to call them, for whatever offense you're in. That's like the hybrid. That's like the perfect. It's kind of like being a DC. You probably want to be linebackers or some type of a safety,
right,
a type of a thing.
Yeah.
So but coaching offensive line, you just feel like I'm worried about is the quarterback good? Is the receivers doing their thing? Like you said, I can kind of have a hand on the running backs. They can come do inside with me, but I make sure everybody's good, and then the offensive line kind of can get neglected a little bit, and that can't happen.
The other one, and this might be an unpopular opinion with some people, but I think the quarterback coach too needs to be its own coach. Doesn't need to be the coordinator because they're doing so much.
Mm-hmm.
Like Coach Wickham when we were at Old Dominion with Heineke. You know what I mean? If Ronnie were trying to call it, he wouldn't be able to communicate with Taylor as much and do those things. So, like I said, I think I've been fortunate enough to be the running backs coach as I've been coordinating it. So I think that's been a pretty good fit.
Yeah, it's definitely. I coached and called the offense. I coached our line, I think 2 years, and it's tough. Especially, and this isn't any disrespect to any other position, but such a detailed position, and there's always something that you're coaching, and on top of that, you got 5 guys you got to watch if you're by yourself.
Yeah,
and then as a coordinator, you want to watch the whole play, but a lot of the time for the O-line, the ball may be out, but we're still trying to pick up a blitz or whatever the case is. There's so much that goes into it. I coach quarterbacks here, not necessarily because I'm the best at it. I feel like I should coach quarterbacks, but just a lot of it's based on need. And then, obviously we were spread and we're throwing it 35 times a game and all this stuff. And it made it a little bit better because I wanted to make sure that the quarterback kind of knew, the thought process behind play calls and stuff like that. But it's tough. I couldn't imagine being an offense coordinator as a receiver coach, and you're trying to watch the receivers and, watch the O-line, and that's gotta be tough.
Yeah. Coach, who all is in your, I don't know if you call it region, league, conference, like who all is in there? And do you feel that, being wing T, it gives you an advantage. You know, they say if you can't, you know, if you're not the same, you got to be different, right? And
right,
so
no doubt. So we're in regions down here, which actually they just, like I said, they've just reshuffled those. So this is our first year into it. So in our region, we've got Pebblebrook, South Cobb, obviously us, McEachern High School, Osborne High School, Harrison High School, and Hillgrove High School.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's everybody, right? 7 and 3 non-region. Yep. So yeah, we're a pretty deep region. You know, and for us, your top 4 go on to the playoffs. So, you know, we fell just a little bit short this year playing Pebblebrook the last game of the year. You know, so, but yeah, so it's a pretty tough region. You know, again, the Harrisons and the Hillgroves, and it's pretty similar. Us and Hillgrove this year were really similar as far as run base. I think they were 85% run, to where, you know, we threw it around a little bit more. We got into some screen game this year, which I thought helped us with some things. But yeah, you know, and I think the one caveat to that, right? If they say if you don't have the athletes, you can run the wing tee or the triple, I think is getting just the kids to buy in no matter what you're doing. You know, I always tell our guys all the time, I don't care how we score. We could roll the ball across the goal line with our nose. We're just trying to score. And so I think at times when we were playing some of those better teams, some of the kids, some of the doubts kind of creeped in on them a little bit. You know, when we were playing the teams that we were supposed to beat handedly, they were good. You know, oh yeah, we'll run this no problem. But you know, once we got that first score against a quality opponent, I think that kind of sparked them. Like, oh shoot, we can do this. So,
yeah, belief is so underrated, and
no question.
And I feel like that kind of talking crap about the past, but kind of we had a big turnaround. Like we went 3-8 2 years ago, and then last year went 8-4, went to the second round of the playoffs. And I just feel like our kids just locked in. They just believed in what we were trying to do, and you know they went hard and run through a wall for our head coach. So that definitely, I mean, it's amazing what kids can do when they're motivated.
Mm-hmm. So there's no doubt about that. What does everybody else run as far as like your schedule is concerned?
So and I'll kind of go geographically just because I'm thinking about it. Pebblebrook is a full spread team. They ran a little bit of some power this year, obviously zone. You know, South Cobb, that was a first-year staff there, so they were trying to figure it out. The first couple games they went spread, and they went to wing tee for a few games, and I think they lost some people, so then they went back to a spread team. Osborne is 11, 12 personnel team, power, duo, those plays. They'll still throw it around a little bit. They got a younger quarterback. McEachern's full spread. Again, they got guys all over the place running around there. Hillgrove was a team who they would line up in about 7 different formations and run duo any way they could. That was what they were doing. They didn't care. Then, you know, they would zip it out real quick, a little smoke screen, you know, and then throw when they had to. And then Harrison was, again, kind of a combination team. I'd say more of a power spread. They did like some gap scheme stuff, but they would also run, you know, duo, and then throw it all over there. Their quarterback could run too. So their quarterback run game was really good, which is what our quarterback can run, and he showed the ability to. The problem was he was only a sophomore this year and has only played a couple of years of actual quarterback. So just trying to not throw too much at him, you know what I mean? Let him kind of understand the offense, evolve in the offense. And I think, you know, one thing that's definitely helping us out, and Ian Rapp, I think you and I talked about this before, is Dub Maddox's system, the R4 stuff, just to streamline all of our communication with him and our coaches. You know, we've been using that, and over Christmas break, I read 3 of the dang books, so I only got 1 more to go. So I'm feeling pretty good about that. But that's something I think that's going to help us this year with him, is being able to streamline it and be able to be on the same page. You know, I think too many times coaches are like, oh, well, we call that trips. Well, okay, well, here we call it peanut butter. You know, we got to be on the same page, you know, the 1 cap, 2 cap type of deal. You know, what are we looking at? You know, I think also that can help, you know, I feel like that'll help us with our game planning to streamline it. And once everybody gets in there too. So we got a pretty good mix. In our first year running true Delaware wing tee, I thought helped us quite a bit because teams weren't ready for it. You know, we were playing some teams and again, on paper, they were better than us. But then when we were, you know, pop off trap for 7-8 yards and then, you know, first year we didn't run buck sweep as much. We ran more power, trap, jet sweep a little bit too. And then this year I knew we had some running backs who could see buck sweep, right? They could ride the wave, put their foot in the ground, get vertical. So we focused on that from January of last year up and all the way through the season. And that was actually our best run play, buck sweep. And then we had a variation of it where we kind of merged a couple plays, added a kind of super buckish, if you're with the Bixby stuff is adding another puller. So, I thought that stuff was good. So like you said, Ian, or Rap, and you guys are both Ian, so I can't say Ian. I think fitting with what your guys do, with what your players can do is huge. And I think, if you do skill development in the off season or you have a chance to work with those guys, just getting a feel for what they can do. Like the oldest running back we have coming back now, again, he's pretty good with power. He can feel it. He can stay on the inside hip of that guard. So he does some good things. So I don't want to get rid of buck sweep because it's been really good for us this year, but that might be something going forward where we just have to dial it back a little bit.
Yeah, that's interesting you saying that, because it's always an off-season thing for some coaches. Like, how much is too much, right? And we as coaches, we kind of be like, oh, I love this, love that, I love this, and it's like, well, you don't need all of it.
Right.
You need to get good at what you do. Kind of talk about that. Like expand on. You're not. He's really good at power. Maybe you have to come back on buck a little bit because you can't do everything.
Yep. Well, and I got to put this caveat. I see Coach Abels in the chat. He's one of our offensive line coaches. I was kind of a curmudgeon in our staff meetings on Sundays because at times I'm looking at the film and looking at our guys and they're like, hey, we can do this and we can do that. Yeah, how are we going to practice it, guys?
Yeah.
And then our head coach, he was like, guys, that's a great play on the board. If we don't get comfortable with it, Watkins isn't going to call it. I think, and again, I'm having an internal debate right now is because you want to have all the answers, right? You want to be able to say, hey, if you have an open B gap, all right, let's run trap, right? Or if they're closing it, what's going to be your answer, which, the wing T and most coaches will do. I think I have to dial it back as far as the total plays we run and just do it out of more formations, which we are looking, like I said, it's some more gun T formation, some of that stuff, and just being able to be more with that. And then adding the RPOs and then adding the screen game to it. So you kind of have like with buck sweep, right? We got a screen tied off of that. Right. And I was watching, I was on Exo Labs today and I see Rhode Island does a divide play out of buck sweep, which was sick, where they're reading that backside B gap with the D lineman. That's the other problem. I got to stop being on Twitter and see what everybody else is doing because that's what I do.
That's my biggest problem too, is I'm just like, man, that's sweet. How can we do this?
Right. And then you forget about, it takes, 10 to 12, maybe 20 reps in practice for, you as a coordinator feel comfortable, the kids to feel comfortable running it. Here's a crazy stat that, thinking about it, our reverse play, we would rep once or twice a week was our best friggin' play. I don't get it, right? You run power, you run trap, you run buck sweep a million times against all the different looks. And then all of a sudden the defense moves and we can't block it. But we run friggin' reverse, no problem. 70 yards to the house, 50-yard run on it. I'm like, we just need to run that every time.
It'll open up your other ones for sure.
Yeah, there you go.
Absolutely.
Do you guys run any belly?
We do. Yep, belly G is one of my favorite plays.
There you go.
And again, I think it ties in well with power because you do get the one guard pulling with it. And I was actually last spring, we were having one of our offensive linemen was recruited, being recruited by Charleston Southern. And Coach Holyfield at the time was talking about how that's their main staple, and they do it out of a million formations and things like that. I think that play is also going to come into play more with us, getting into some two-back sets, be able to run that and obviously run the quarterback with it too. I mean, shoot, you think about it, you can run that out of true doubles, 2x2, right? You send the back on motion and now you get the quarterback belly with it. So I think it's some stuff that will get us into some things this year that I really like.
Yeah, absolutely. That the formation thing has been internal debate that I've been having. And I was actually talking to Tatum and Coach Trotter, who's in the chat, was here. He got busted, so he's not here anymore. But so, obviously being at ODU, we ran 2x2, 3x1. That was it.
That was it, baby.
So, obviously where I learned football, I just was never really a big formation guy. And when I started coaching high school, obviously I realized like, okay, well, I can't just run 4 verticals all the time and inside zone and beat people. Yeah. So, we need to install more. And then it turned into, okay, we need to install more. And then we had a play sheet of however many pass concepts or whatever it was. And now I'm trying to change from more plays to more formations. And my biggest concern always was, well, and honestly, up until very recently, until I talked to them about it, was like, if we get into a formation that I haven't seen on film, because I'm big off that, if we get into a formation where, I can't guarantee that I know how the defense is going to line up, that's my biggest worry, and that's one thing that the Gun T Clinic really helped me with was like, okay, as an O-line guy, we talk about, how we're going to block inside zone and all that stuff in the past. And now it's, well, just block your rule.
Right.
And that was one of the big traditional wing T things too, is just block your rule. It don't matter how they line up.
Yep, no doubt. Well, and running the traditional wing T, I mean, half the time you're not going to know how the defense is going to line up, right? You might know their structure, right? They might be a 3-down team or a 4-down team. We actually ran into this in our first year here, right? A team had shown 3 and 4 down. We were like, all right, well, against us, I would imagine they go 3 down. They were that for like 2 or 3 plays and bumped into 4 down. Well, we only repped, one day maybe of a 4-down look. So our offensive line is freaking out in the same thing. I'm like, guys, what are your rules, right? Buck sweep, what's your rule? Tackle, gap down backer. There you go. Let me ask you this, guys. What's your favorite formation? If you had one formation, what's your favorite formation to run?
Go ahead, Rap.
Come back to me.
Trips nub.
My guy. That's what was going to be mine too. Trips nub. I love.
Yeah. I posted a thing on Twitter and I had a bunch of people like, what's the big deal about trips nub? And I like adding the gap. You still have your trips game, all your 3x1 stuff, and your tight end still eligible, so he's still, he can go downfield. But I think, in my opinion, I love counter, and we named the podcast after counter, right? And power is God's play. But you can call it buck, you can call it pin and pull, but I think quarterback buck with a running back leading to the nub side is one of the toughest plays in football. So
yeah. Well, it's also you think about it too, right? You're forcing the defense's hand, right? If you put the nub to the boundary, you put the trips to the boundary, they're going to be a field boundary team. You're truly separating that run and pass strength. So that's one of the reasons I love it. And then obviously with all the shifts and the motions and, now you get to the tackle or the tight end over. So now you got a 4-man circus and you're asking a high school kid to remember that tight end's not eligible, right? Yeah. I think that's my thing.
Yeah. That I've run, we got into 2 years ago, and I don't even know where we came up with it, but it was trips with tight end wing away from it. And I guess you could say that we kind of got into trips nub some because, if we didn't like the look run game wise with the quarterback, we would motion the running back into the backfield. And obviously that's what it became. The thing that I like the most about it is that we didn't have to change any personnel to do it. Which I've really tried to make a point of all the time. Obviously there's situations like 2 years ago, that same year, when we got into our 2-back stuff, we had to sub. Because we didn't have a receiver that could go into the backfield and be productive. Last year, this past season, we were able to do all that stuff because we had a kid who we could move into the backfield and he could run the ball. He could run power and counter. And, we did a bunch of stuff like off the backside of just our base run scheme stuff. We'd run the triple off of it. We'd run, we called it swing, and it's just like a flare route off of it where we're reading the overhang guy and stuff like that. And that was really cool. So that was a good formation to us because it made, like y'all said, it made the defense declare what they were going to do. And we'd run a lot of jet, like to the tight end wing side and stuff like that. And then obviously like having trips the other way all of our pass game, we were good.
Mm-hmm.
And we could full slide. We could, again, bump the running back in and be able to run our 6-man protection stuff and all that. So I wish that I would have done more out of it. At the time, I was more worried about running the quarterback a ton.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a tough kid, really good football player. And he took shots throughout the 3 years that I've been with him. And he always got back up and never came out or anything like that. But yeah, that was a cool formation that allowed us to do a lot of stuff without really changing anything. It was a quick thing with the tight end and the running back who was playing wing. Like, okay, if we're going jet to you, this is what we're looking for, kind of thing. And kind of giving them more of like a generic rule.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously a lot of the time the corner would stay on that side and the wing would wind up going out to the corner or whatever the case is. But I felt like that formation really gave a lot of people fits because we were able to get into some of our base formations, but at the same time try and see how defenses were going to line up to spread and then tight end wing on the other side. So it was cool. I really liked it. And it was fairly cheap to install because it really didn't change anything for anybody. Just that we had a guy that was playing tight end next to the tackle, and the tackle wasn't used to that.
No doubt. Do you guys mess with empty at all?
Yes.
Yeah.
A lot of teams, and I don't know how it is with Tatum where he's at, but a lot of the teams here don't know how to line up to it. Like the general rule with empty for us is people are going to play cover zero. They'll just walk the safety down and do it that way. Another big one for us, and it wasn't as big this year, but 2 years ago, quads was a big one for us. And it was empty quads instead of keeping a running back in. And I mean, we would just mess with people, if they were playing cover zero and we liked our matchup on the backside, then, we'll throw a hitch and throw a hitch and throw a hitch. And if they start walking up and pressing, then we're going to throw a fade, just like anybody can draw up the perfect play. But yeah, I mean, that was really a bunch of different variations that empty have been really good to us the last couple of years.
Yeah, I like we do empty. Not as much this year because we had a running back that we just wanted to run the ball with. But we had the ability to. The year before we did just because we wanted to run the quarterback, right? So we'll get into just whatever spread formation you want to, but then keep that H back, and you still have all your gap scheme run plays with the running quarterback. And so what are they going to do? They're going to defend the passing strength, or they're going to keep some guys in there in the box. We're just going to run the ball the whole time. So definitely love that. I haven't done this as much, but I like seeing guys do it. Is really wide splits with receivers, whether you use Art Briles or any of that stuff. But buddy of mine, Lance Burrell, he's out in Utah. He's the head coach. We watched film together, and his guys are so wide, and the apex defenders are trying to play middle of the field, the apex, right? Who are you defending? You're just defending some grass.
Right.
You're not on the receiver. You're not in the box. It's like, so doing that, he's like, we're doing that just to run wide zone. Or if he starts getting those, we'll just throw it out there because of course you have to have a quarterback and throw wide receivers. But what are you gonna do? Like he's out there playing the apex, just touching grass. So
that's what we would always. My bad. We would always get in at least one empty formation. They usually had a tight end or the wing 3-man surface, so we could get to our buck sweep. Carry that stuff in. So I'm with you. I think that's going to be a bigger thing because again, we don't have the stockpile of running backs like we've had the last couple of years. So we've got more receiver bodies, so we're going to have to do some more of that stuff, but still run your jet sweeps, power read, buck sweep from the twin set. So.
Yeah, that was the wide splits thing. We started doing it, I guess it was 2 years ago. And I mean, we'd stack the receivers in doubles and say, okay, well, we're obviously have been a big RPO team really since I got here. And I mean, we would throw like smoke or key screen or whatever it is. And I'm like, look, if the corner's the only one out there, throw it.
Yeah.
We'll take our chances on making the block and, we'll be good for 10, 15 yards. If not, they start to widen. Okay, now we got a true 6-man box. We're reading one, so it's 5-on-5. Let's roll. So that part of it, just simple stuff like that. But then you wind up having a look that you can really do whatever. We started getting to like our 4 vertical pass game out of it too, and switching them and, doing all that stuff. And that was really cool. And then we would get in trips and go wide splits and stack 3 guys. And a lot of the times people didn't really know how to line up to it. And now you got one catching the bubble or the key screen, whatever you want to call it. And then the next 2, the first one's blocking the corner and the next one basically treating it like a crack block. And there's nobody there.
Yeah.
And a lot of teams that we play are one high, so it really winds up being the safety. And if we can get the ball there and we can get the block, we're in pretty good shape.
Yeah,
so,
there's no doubt.
Coach Fitz right here had a question. He said, "Was a play versus a 3-4 with outside linebacker setting the edge hard?"
See, I still like Buck sweep to it. I don't mind that. Also, belly G. You're talking about that's another good one to it. Get with the single kick. And again, if you've got a guy, right? If you've got a Z, I call him Z for us, but if your wing is a bigger body, somebody that's stronger, like the kid we had this year before he got hurt, he's a 500 squatter, 300 bencher at running back, where he would put attack the hip, get right on that. He can move those guys. And now you're asking, that outside backer, right, to set the edge. Well, that's usually a little bit smaller of a guy, maybe potentially. You got that big D end. So again, I love Buck sweep to almost everything. And I would say that as far as the run game goes, that or again, belly G were the 2 that I loved.
Yeah, I mean, I would treat it as like bear. That's
Yeah.
what it is. And with those guys being edge defenders, means that those fours or 4 eyes are true B gap defenders. So I would treat it like bear, pitch off the outside guy, because at that point, who's outside, right, of him? So you can base with a tackle and then get outside and pitch off that guy. You can get on the edge. I mean, they're having a safety come down or a corner, and we don't block corners. So
no. They make the tackle. We need a new running back.
Yeah, exactly.
I was thinking like toss, bash, or both answers. I'm good. Yeah, absolutely.
So empty double stack, number 3x1, turn to empty. Number 3 stack behind number 2 and trips. Running back stack behind number 1 in the boundary and run double fold with the tackles. Reading the outside backer on the boundary and key strings attached. Yeah, I love double fold against odd. Double fold with the tackles, wrap it inside.
Yeah.
Trotter and I talked about that at the clinic wrap. We were like, it was like, well, it's a one-on-one with the center. Well, let the center make everybody right. If the guy stunts this way, all right,
take him where he wants to go
the other way, right? Let the running back just cut, and then we're tackles on the linebackers at that point and live to fight another day.
Another one that's go ahead, Rap.
We played Minchville in the playoffs at Norview, and they were an odd front team. And we ran the fold, and I mean, we treated it like inside zone. We taught the kids that was our variation of inside zone for that week, or that was our adjustment. And we gassed them with it. Because, I mean, it helps your tackle out. You don't have to reach a 4 who may be stunting and stuff like that. Makes it a lot easier to block out on them and fold. But I like that stuff a lot.
One of my favorite kind of one-off plays, if you're getting a 3-4 team where those inside backers are reading, especially for us, reading guards heavy, we just called it sucker. We had both guards pull opposite. 49ers did a few years ago on the goal line. Center takes the nose wherever he wants to go, and then the quarterback's got a 2-way go off of it, and it's him and the safety for the most part. So, again, as you're looking at some of that trick stuff, that was a good play for us too. Another one that I like is ISO. Right, you just get that lead block on it. You're getting up on the backers now. You got the double team with the nose. So that's another good one too. Is you're just blocking out for the most part.
Yeah.
Yeah. You if you want to, you can get a double on the nose, like you said, and keep going. We were a big one back ISO team. We were RPO the backside linebacker. So that fit what we already did, and I put it in the man scheme world because we were talking about trap this today on Twitter and yesterday on Twitter, your traps and your ISOs and stuff like that. It's older football, and I had a conversation with a guy at DM. He was like, "Well, it doesn't fit in with the powers and the counters." I'm like, "That's still old school football. Like everything is old school, just because there's an inside zone." But I mean, I love it. And football is a circle, man. So all can come back.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. You see it so much now.
Well, you're seeing the spinner, right? The spinner series with everybody.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I love when coaches actually do the research and kind of like Andy Reid, like, and at that level, everybody's watching the Chiefs play. So I think he's doing it to show off a little bit. And it's like, I was watching some old film in the 1960s, and this is what the Packers were doing back in the day. So we're gonna throw it out here and score on it. Like, okay, cool.
Yeah. The stuff that they do in the red zone, especially, and I think they did it in the Super Bowl last year, year before, whenever it was, where they like line up and they huddle and they start spinning around in circles and then run everybody out like sugar huddle style. And I'm just like, how can I call that?
Right.
Because my kid, like, I just know, like, I'd be at practice. I'm like, okay, get your arms around each other and just hop around in a circle and then break the huddle and go. Like,
you're going to get some looks. There's no doubt.
They would just look at me like, Coach Rat, what are you talking about?
What are you talking about, man?
Go watch the Chiefs play.
That happened to us on JV this year. So our quarterback, that was pretty good. He broke his clavicle. So he was done. And so we went straight, like, double wing and, like, just installed that with the JV. Just, we're just trying to get them kids to play hard. And the first day doing it, them kids were like, what the hell is this? And then we kind of got them into it, right? We started to show them, we installed it on air, and that totally was a bad idea. And like we put guys over there for them to go hit, and we started to show that they were just mauling kids, and they were like, "This is actually pretty cool." So, yeah, I mean, old school, man, old school.
Yeah.
Which this brings me to my next point. You talk about favorite run play. We practiced this play for 2 years, where we hand it off to the guard, and he runs for a touchdown off the jet sweep. Ran it this year finally. I was like, yes,
love it.
In the big guys.
Yeah. We got it. Go ahead, Brad.
No, you go ahead.
No, I'll say we got into I formation on the goal line, short yardage, and I put my starting right guard at fullback and just gave him the ball and just dive. He loved it, and all the guys wanted to go. Like there's little things like that. Like he was a senior, leader of the team, all that stuff, and so the guys wanted to go extra because he was getting the ball, and you can steal yards and steal some scores just based off of effort on stuff like that.
Oh yeah,
so
there ain't no doubt.
Have fun
Absolutely.
with it, man.
Absolutely.
We always try, and the last 2 years, especially like playoff time, we always start doing something a little different. This year we got in diamond and ran a bunch of triple stuff out of it, and it was so much fun. I loved it. And then the year before, we got in spinner, and we ran that in the second round. And I don't know what it is. Like I just have this thought process that we have to be able to do something that is a little bit different than what we normally do. Mm-hmm. I want to see, obviously they're practicing for our 2-back stuff. They're practicing for our 10 personnel stuff. But when we get in this, what are they going to do? But yeah, we had like a hook and ladder off of basically a tunnel screen to our left tackle. And I mean, it was clean, wide open. Like he could have cartwheeled into the end zone. It was on a 2-point conversion. And I told him, I said, look, first touchdown we score, we're going for 2, and this is what we're running. And he catches the ball, whatever, and the corner just like dives and grabs his foot and tackles him at like the half-yard line. Yeah. And I was like, dude, you're never going to touch the ball again. I was so mad. And I mean, we wound up like winning the game and whatever, but I was just like this is your shot. Like the O-line all week, we ran it like the last 2 plays a team the whole week, and the O-line were like had like their celebration planned out, and I was like, look, he scores, I'll wear the 15 yards, y'all do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
And daggone if he didn't get tackled at like a half-yard line. I was like, you literally could have reached the ball out and scored.
Yeah.
Like,
you don't want to do that, right? Unless it's the end of the game or end of the half.
He literally said, like, Coach, I just didn't want to fumble it. And I was like, okay, bro.
Respect that, no doubt.
I'll see you next drive.
Coach, let me ask you, are the referees as bad in Georgia?
There's no way.
As they are in North Carolina? You won't get in trouble. Nobody's watching this.
No doubt. Yes, there are times where you have to remind the guys, like, you know, and we talk, obviously, our head coach and I, we talk all the time, like, hey, coach, remind them about this, remind them about this. I mean, you see things that are egregious, and you see things all the time. I mean, I'm trying to remember, you know, from my time up in Virginia, I don't know if there's ever been a spot where they've been like, oh my God, they were terrible here. They're just, you know, they're trying to see things so fast.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that was the politically correct answer.
I was about to say that was very politically correct.
You know, I mean, again, the guys are trying hard, but, you know, there's a lot of times where there's things, and I don't know about you guys, but if we even come close to the edge of the field, like, we got a guy looking to throw a flag right now. I'm like, buddy, once you look out there, don't worry about us.
Right.
If it's a call in the field of play and you miss it, I understand. Everybody's human. But it's the stuff that I don't want to say doesn't matter because it's a rule, but it's stuff that doesn't matter. It's like you said, too close. You're in his box, like, or you put one foot out there, or like this year I got fussed at, literally just for running out. I've been coaching for 10 years, and every score I always run to the numbers and do a jump with one of my linemen for 10 years. This year's the only year I've ever had. He literally had, like, the two different games had referees like yelling at me because I was on the field. Literally, like, they're coming back to the sideline so we can go and line up for kickoff, and we do a jump. And no warning, just dogging me. And I'm like, what are we doing? Like, I don't know.
And again, I mean, those guys, I don't wish that to take their job by any stretch of imagination. They're dealing with people yelling and boo birds and all that. And John, I see in there, buddy. I appreciate the work you do. There's no doubt.
Come on down to North Carolina.
Yeah, I like I said, I couldn't do referees' jobs, and I do appreciate that they're there. It's just when they do the extra stuff, it's like it's not necessary. But I have friends that are referees, so but I'll leave that where it is.
My worst, like the worst thing about referees is first pregame, where, you know, everybody's got their pants pulled out super high. They got their back plates out and, you know, all that. And they're like, coach, make sure they get them covered. I'm like, I got you. Like, you know, it's pregame. They want to look cool, this and that. Like, we had a kid who had a super, I mean, it was like pitch dark, like 0% tint visor. Like, I don't know how he saw anything, even with the lights on. And they would every single week, coach, he's got to take that visor off. I'm like, I know. He doesn't even like screw it in. He just wears it for pregame and pops it off before we go on the field. Mm-hmm. But the knee pad thing has always been a difficult one for me. The worst ref experience I've ever had, we were playing 2 years ago at a school and didn't play very well. Game went to overtime. And the ref on our sideline, who I'm not going to talk about much, but she called the white hat over right before overtime, and I was standing right next to her, and she said, hey, I don't feel comfortable throwing a flag during this overtime. And the white hat said, keep it in your pocket. And I'm just like, oh, boy.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I think she threw 15 yards on me for like going out on the field, and I was on we had a kid like cramp or something like that. I was on the field, and while I was on the field, he had gotten back off the field. I was still on the field talking to one of the kids, and she threw 15 yards on me for being on the field too long. And it was an interesting deal. I will say this year they were a lot better collectively over the course of our 12 games that we played than they have been in the past. So shout out Northeast North Carolina referees. Appreciate you.
The one
Let's keep getting better.
the one ref I experience I can think of is kind of the game within the game, right? So we're playing in the quarterfinals my first year at Cedartown. So this had to be the 21 season, right? So we're down in Middle Georgia, South Georgia, Perry High School, and their head coach, you're a head coach, Rap. You meet with the refs before the game, right? Well, their head coach sought out the officials. He had to be the first one to meet with them. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of weird. We were a sugar huddle team. And sometimes we probably weren't set for a complete second before that thing was snapped. Well, the white hat came over and said, I need to talk to your quarterback right now. And I'm like, oh, that's weird. And we probably had 4, 5 illegal motion, not set. And I was like, good for you, coach. You saw it on film. You knew what we were doing. That's the game within the game. Good job. Because it frustrated us because we had to pause more. We had to, and the quarterback had to completely – he couldn't get under. He had to wait and then get under because they said it was too much like simulating a snap. I was like,
yeah. Nice. There's a lot of times too, like, there's kind of like a hierarchy with coaches and referees. So like, we play Tarboro, they won a state championship. They've played for like the last 80 state championships. Their head coach is an absolute legend. Phenomenal people, great coaching staff, like all that, everything's perfect. And there's times that like we're playing schools like that, and even in Virginia, it was the same way with Coach Sawyer at Lake Taylor, all that. Where like you may not get a call, or they may get a call, and my coaching staff is like complaining about it and all that. And I'm like, guys, like he's won how many state championships, and I've won 0. So it's not all going to be perfect. It's going to be a lot more obvious if they're complaining versus if I'm complaining. So, that part of it's tough too, but I guess it's kind of the nature of the beast.
Yeah, Coach Station said he's in south of Richmond. They played against Stonebridge, which Stonebridge is a beast. Best officials they had all season. Yeah, I mean, it's hit or miss. Like, and obviously in the playoffs, you're supposed to get the better ones. Right, they're supposed to be moving them around, so of course you're gonna get that. But it's a tough job. But I wouldn't want to do it.
No doubt.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to do it. Let's see. Yeah, I saw that. So you see the Chatsworth versus Southgate referee mess up LAC championship went viral. Yeah, that's the one where I think the ball literally skipped the ground and the DB like picked it up off the ground and like took it back for. I guess it would be a scoop and score. They can call it an interception return.
Really?
Yeah.
No, I didn't see that.
And then one of my buddies here in North Carolina, like there was obviously like a strip. The defensive lineman was on the ground with the ball, got up and took off, and the referee was like, "We didn't see him."
Yeah.
And gave him a scoop and score.
Do you guys have review now in the playoffs?
No.
So in 2022. There was a team who was driving. They were on like the 2-yard line, and the kid got tackled. The refs called it a touchdown on like the 2-yard line. And ever since then, we've got review for scoring situations. They can review in the playoffs for state title game, really. But
so, can you challenge it, or is it just like official review?
They were toying back and forth with it. I think they were going to allow people to review, and then it just ended up being we're just going to review things.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't know that anybody was doing it. So, speaking of that kind of stuff, what is like the and I don't know if you know, but are y'all any thoughts or talk about coach to player communication, like helmet communication or anything like that?
No, not that I know of. But I'm sure like everything else, it'll probably trickle down a little bit. I mean, I think it'd be huge to have that. It'd be good, just like you saw. The guy from the Vikings, giving positive affirmation to the quarterbacks and
that was awesome.
I think would help tremendously, especially with young quarterbacks or young quarterbacks or linebackers, and then guys who just kind of need that boast of, hey man, we got you, we're with you.
Yeah, that's always been my thing. Is like and I saw somebody. I think it might have been Coach Simpson posted on Twitter, like, what do you think the big hold up with it getting to high school is, because obviously it seemed like it was a a success in college last year. And a lot of people were saying like financial issues. And my argument is like, okay, it may be, but at the end of the day, not everybody can afford headsets. You know, there's a couple teams that we play that I know of right now that don't have headsets, and they don't say, okay, well, you can't use them for that game, or sideline replay or whatever it is. Yeah. So I'm interested to see how long it takes to get to high school. I think it would be cool. I know, I mean, like Go Route already has an in-game. I think they do like an Apple Watch type deal, and your call sheets on the iPad or whatever. I know Procom, our headset company, and the reason why we switched from Portaphone to Procom is because they have everything set up, and their option for like the speaker or whatever in the quarterback's helmet was the cheapest. And I was like, well, I mean, I'm guessing it's going to come somewhat soon, so let's make the switch while we got a little bit of money and prepare for that. And I mean, their headsets are really nice too, but
that's good. That's good forward thinking on that part.
Yeah, everybody was talking about it. I was like, daggone, what's going to happen like this year? And that was before last season, and joke's on me. But
I think whenever you're going to implement any new technology or something that's different from what you've been doing, first thing's going to be like it's equality. Like, is everybody going to have it? Like you were saying, just like shot clock in high school basketball. It's like, some, like, I know like private schools, have it because, they got the money for it. But, your run-of-the-mill high school doesn't have shot clock, which that's another issue. But, I think if you can afford it, go for it. If you can, I mean, that's up to you,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think, you're always going to be able to find a school that can't afford any of that stuff. You know what I mean? And we'll probably have to fundraise for it whenever it does happen. Well, we'll definitely have to fundraise for it whenever it does happen. But at the end of the day, I don't really understand why that would be the holdup. And I mean, obviously I don't have any kind of vote or anything like that when it comes to that stuff, but I know they just started, like our baseball team, they had coach to catcher communication, and this year they started coach to pitcher, or now they have pitcher and catcher. Yeah, so like our baseball coach just went with Go Route for that, and that's what they have, is like it's like an Apple Watch that the pitcher and the catcher wear. And they're like ready for it to open up to everybody. But yeah, I was thinking that it would happen before last season, once college passed it, but obviously it makes sense. They want to see how it goes, but it's just weird to me that like the financial thing would be the reason why, because there's so many things that like some teams can afford, some can't. End zone camera, huddle assist, huddle replay, or whatever company it is.
Yeah, so that's what coach is saying. Like, they don't have what sounds like any technology, and they went to a championship. I mean, it's beginning of my career, I didn't have a headset. Like we didn't have a headset at all. So I mean, if you have a smaller staff, you're all right there. I mean, it is what it is, but just make it convenient with a spotter up there, of course.
Yeah, for sure.
Before we get farther, I'm gonna shout out my dog, the best DC in the state of North Carolina, Jonathan Douglas. That's our DC. So that's my brother. That's my brother right there. So shout out to him. But how do y'all prefer to get plays in? Y'all signal? You run a kid in?
Traditional wing T, you got to run a kid in.
Yeah, well, so our quarterback would come to the sideline and trot back and forth. And my first year here at Campbell, we had a kid who is at Northern Illinois right now. He's like 6'4", 200 pounds. So it took him 3 strides, and he was to the sideline anyways. But we do the check with me stuff, so there's some signaling. Now this year going forward again, it's going to be mostly signal with an occasional, run him to the sideline, things like that. For the longest time, I mean, shoot, Rap at Old Dominion, we were signaling everything in. O-line had a signal, skill guys had a signal. I think you can go back and forth. I think it's kind of whatever you want to do. Again, I know for us. And then we did wristbands too, to be honest with you. I had it all kind of going for our kids because some of our calls got a little wordy. So, I was like, hey, wristband, purple 6. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, getting them to read it sometimes and be correct when they read, that's a whole nother story. But
yeah. We talked about this topic before, and just like the wristband. Like I grew up in a system where we did everything wristband, right? And then but the offensive coordinator that he was a wristband guy. He took everything. He collected the wristbands. He cleaned them. He took in and out the cards. He changed the cards up. So if you have a guy that the wristband is their deal, or it's not that big of a deal to put all that stuff on there, cool, do it. Some people don't want to fool with it at all. I mean, I like it, but some people don't want to fool with it at all.
I've been trying to find the NFL ones because I see they got because normally you get the 3-window panel, but I think they got a 5-window panel. I was like, goodness gracious! I just want to see it. I want to see what it looks like.
Yeah, we I tried wristbands early in the summer this year, and it was for like more wordy calls. And I don't know if I necessarily set us up for success. I think we had 6 to 8 plays on it. And everybody's was the same. All it did was have the whole play call on it. Yeah. But I mean, we didn't use wristbands when I was in high school. Obviously, we didn't use them at ODU. I hadn't been anywhere that had used wristbands as the primary deal. I've always been a signal guy, I guess, from the ODU days, and really everywhere else that I've been, we've always signaled, even when I wasn't the offensive coordinator. When I was at Nansemond River, we did not signal. The quarterback ran back and forth. Yeah. And I mean, it's whatever you're comfortable with, I think, as a coach. And then, I'm a big believer that if you're comfortable, the kids will learn whatever you need them to learn, as far as how you're getting plays in and stuff like that. But one of the big things that we do when we install is when we call a play, whether it's 7-on-7 or team or inside run or whatever, as the kids are learning, as I'm saying the play out loud, I'm doing the signal also. Mm-hmm. Or, if we're inside run, my O-line coach is the one who signals. As he's calling the play, he's signaling at the same time to try and kind of get them to associate the play call with what the signal looks like also. And my O-line coach won't tell you that he likes signaling, but if we ever got rid of signaling, he would be upset. He may not admit that, but yeah, he gets super into it. So
what do you guys think of the wristbands per position that have the responsibility on it?
So, and that's what I was kind of going to allude to was when we first got to Perquimans, we went position literally to the receiver, left tackle, left guard, center, right guard, right tackle. Everybody had a different one. And we didn't teach the kids concepts. Let me go back. We didn't teach the receivers concepts.
Right.
The quarterback knew the whole concept. His band had the entire play on it. The receivers had the formation and then what their route was. And I think I've said it on here, and I know Tatum and I have talked about it. We had the ball with 2 minutes left before half, our first game of the year, my first year here. And that's it. That's it. That's exactly what it looks like. But I was calling plays, and we had just gotten a big run. I think the quarterback scrambled, and we got to the low red zone area, inside the 10. And at that point, I think there were 15, 20 seconds left. And I wound up having to burn a timeout because I couldn't find the play that I wanted on my call sheet. And obviously part of that's, all of it's my problem because I didn't set the call sheet up well enough. But that was the biggest thing for me was I didn't want to feel that feeling again. We wound up scoring and it was fine. We lost the game anyway, but we wound up scoring on that drive and it wound up working out. But it was just so different than what I was used to that I was just I don't want to have to worry about this again. So it wound up kind of biting us in the butt because we literally started over with having to teach everybody concepts and stuff like that. So we went into the week 2 game with 4 plays. Mm-hmm. So that part of it was tough, but you know, I never really didn't perfect the thought process on how to do it. So we went back to signaling, and that's what we've done ever since.
Yeah. So this was one of my mentors. He did when he did the wristbands, and this is his master. So like everything's on here. So this would be the actual wristband. It has each person's job. Then you can go to the individualized. Like here's the left guard on all of them, left tackle. And you have like receiver, so like an X. It has all their routes and stuff like that. So it was just like that. Like Rap's saying, you can get kind of limited based off what you put down. But then, well, if that's all you do, so we just do that. So, but yeah, I liked it when it was easy because for that team we were like a private league team. It was like pay to play, and we only practiced like 3 days a week. So we really needed to get, and one of them was a walkthrough. So we really needed like something to expedite the time we were losing. So we just did wristbands. We just taught concepts. We taught what a push right and a push left was, and what this meant, what that meant. And it really helped those kids kind of understand and be able to play football when we really had limited time. But yeah, guys, the O-line coaches hat, I got it from Dome Hats on Twitter. If you follow Coach Mack, he's big dome hat guy. I want to give away. So if you want to go domehats.com, just Google it. You can get your support your local O-line coach hat. Not sponsored. You're muted, Rap. You're muted, Rap. This is on the phone.
Got it. All right. Well, we'll try to keep everything.
Sorry, my bad.
You good?
Anyway, that dome hat company is sweet. I've gotten hats from them before.
No offense, Rap. There's the best head coach in the state of North Carolina.
I'm fine with that. Just
But appreciate you.
I
know, right? But yeah, the hat's good. Trip, I just don't like the color. I mean, it is good for this, but I wouldn't wear it to the school. It's Chiefs colors, so can't do that.
I'm with you on that, man.
Can't do it. But yeah, we signal, and there's nothing wrong with signaling. So,
the last question from Coach Garcia, I don't know if that's what I missed or not. I'm sorry. So I have a section on my call sheet, and I mean I don't really look at it much. We've only a handful of times maybe that we've gotten into games where, I really worry about it. And honestly, this year it was very easy because we didn't have a kicker that could put it between the two yellow things. So go for two is what all of them said.
Yeah.
But one of the cool things that Procom does too is like when they send you their headsets, and I don't work for them or anything like that, but they gave us a couple of those cards also. So I keep one in my pocket, but I also have it on my call sheet. And I mean, like I said, this year it was really easy. I never did this. I think I did like twice. We had open kicker tryouts like week 11. So, if that tells you anything. So that, but yeah, in the past, like when we've had a kid that can kick extra points or, field goals or whatever, I've always kept one. And a lot of the time, honestly, like I don't wind up looking at it, but I don't want to be in a situation where I need to look at it and I don't have it. So, I mean, there's a good amount of stuff that I keep on me that I may never look at. Like y'all know, when the game's going well, you don't look at your call sheet. So, all that stuff I keep, but don't really have to wind up using. And then a lot of it for me too is like flow of the game, not necessarily with 2-point plays and stuff like that, but whether we're going to go for it on 4th down and all that. Like if I got a call that I really like and I didn't get to it 1st, 2nd, or 3rd down, I'm going to look down the sideline at my defensive coordinator, and there hasn't been one single time. Like we're like on our -20 and it's like 4th and 14. And I look down at him and he's like, okay, let's go then.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I try to keep all that stuff just in case. So
Yeah, absolutely. I have it on our call sheet, and then our guy in the box, I usually tell, we usually talk, the head guy's like, hey, what's it say right here as we're going in? So we kind of have a plan. The other thing that I do that I kind of learned from Coach Abrams is I've got, like, you guys know, we have different plays for the week, right? Well, I'll print those out and have those in a book on the sideline. So we get to a timeout, I'm showing the kids, right? Kind of like we did with Z at Old Dominion.
I was about to say, Z.
And obviously we did it there for the special teams, thinking because kids are pulling offense, defense, trying to have them remember. But at Cedartown, right, our kids are same thing, right? Our kids are two-way kids, so they're not always remembering it. So when we had a timeout or we had a 2-point play, we wanted to run, we always had that right there. So I'll keep that book on the sideline. It also has our script sheet, so the backup quarterback's writing the plays in there anyway, so he's got it right next to me. So I like that too.
Yeah. Coach, you talked about, some trick stuff, and so how much do y'all do that? Like, do y'all usually have a couple you like to go into the week with, or what does it look like?
No, so we'll carry in each week kind of the same ones. Now the one that we ran where we had the jet sweep action, quarterback opened up from under center and gave it to our guard. Like I said, we had practiced that for 2 years. And finally, going into that week, I told the coaches, I said, hey, we're running that this week. So somebody remind me that I said this so that we can do it. But we would carry in probably 3 to 4. You got your hook and ladders. You've got your, last play in the world, which really isn't a trick play. Your double passes and things like that, just because, and again, I think that falls into I always want to have something in case I need it type of deal. Obviously the reverse always went in. I mean, shoot, we ran that, like I said, probably 7 or 8 times. I'd say there's probably 4 to 5, and we would look at it each week, like, hey, coaches, what are you seeing? How's the defense react after a big gain or something like that? So.
Yeah, we play around with it, and it's kind of like whatever Chip kind of comes up with while he's on planning, I guess. But it's good. It's good. I mean, I assume that's the same thing you kind of do.
Yeah, we so my philosophy is we're gonna put a new one in every week. If we don't run it, we're gonna keep practicing it.
Mm-hmm.
So we may get to the end of the season, and out of the 6 trick plays that we've practiced, we've only run 1. We got to, I can't remember what game it was, and we ran like 4. There's when we played Bertie, which was a close game, and I was just pulling out all the stops. But our kids always loved it. They always got excited about, okay, well, what are we going to run this week? We ran the one with that Penn State ran against USC, where they lined up the tight end kid at center and threw him the seam ball, or we ran that a couple times, and we didn't complete it either time, but we tried it. And I always tell them, like, look, when we get, this is about where I want to be on the field, and we'll call it, we did like the quarterback hurt his hand thing, and he's walking to the sideline. We snap it to the running back, and, that one.
You're that guy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, okay. Let me rephrase. He never acts like he was hurt.
Okay.
He
wrong ball, coach. Wrong ball.
His arm. Like, he literally just started walking through the sideline, and I'm telling you, we had it slam wide open. But we go on the clap, right? And the kid that we motioned into the backfield that could play running back too was our JV quarterback, who's probably going to play quarterback this year, and he had gloves on still. And when he clapped, like, you could barely hear it. So half the team moved, half the team didn't. And, like, I told the quarterback, like, look, as you're coming to the sideline, when we snap the ball, I don't know if you're going to be able to hear it. So I'm just going to point. And when I point, you go. And I pointed, and, I mean, we had, like, an over route by the receiver on that side, and the corner ran with it. I mean, there was absolutely nobody. And anyway, yeah. It was kind of disappointing. We never pulled that one out again. Actually, that's not true. Yes, we did. We pulled it out in the first round of the playoffs. But, yeah, I enjoy doing that, especially I feel like late in the season, obviously, practice starts to get monotonous and all that stuff. You're trying to look for something to kind of juice it back up again. And, that really worked with our kids. That they always got excited about it. So just trying to pick a kid every week, who's going to get the chance to throw the ball or catch the ball, who normally doesn't do the two. All the other kids would always get, disappointed or whatever, but it's a lot of fun. I always look forward to doing stuff like that. So
I always do too. And then it's just the whole, are you going to call it thing? So that's why I said that one game, I said, we're doing it this week, boys. Just remind me.
that's the hardest part, is actually calling it.
Yeah. And I thought it was so overrated that oh, you have stuff on your sheet or you have things you practice and you won't call it. 100% you will. 100%. It still blows my mind. It's all week, this is gonna be good. I like this. We're gonna do this, and then on Friday night, you'll be sitting right there on the call sheet, or somebody, unless they remind you, it just goes right out the window. Blows my mind.
Yeah.
Well, Coach,
that was always my thing. Is got to be on this yard line.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Obviously, working through the Bixby stuff off a throw deep, they do some really creative things.
I love that.
Oh, yeah.
I got the same one. It's awesome.
And then, reading and working through dub stuff, Coach Schneider there at Bixby, they cross the goal or the 50-yard line, right? They cross the emblem. You got a trick play coming. So I tried to model him and dub and do some of that stuff, but obviously it's always hard to.
I know you're all in on R4, but check out QBIQ.
Okay.
It's really good too.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. Coach Garcia says that they named after the team they're playing. It's pretty easy to remember. Quick, easy one-word call. Yeah. And the one-word call is the same thing. I mean, you kind of just build on it, right? If you you go down and Sus got yourself and you're like, hey, we always call, I don't know, dubs inside zone. Well, instead of having to be dubs inside zone with a RPO here and doing that, just call it pirate.
Yeah, whatever.
So or whatever your mascot is, it's your one-word call. So
yeah,
definitely 100%. Well, Coach, I'm gonna call it right here. But we always do. We do a question at the end, kind of just for fun and kind of keep it loose. Usually, it's nothing has to do with football or sports. It's usually kind of off the wall.
Okay.
And I'll be honest with you, Rap. I should have wrote it down because I cannot remember what my question was. And I've been sitting for the last hour and a half, just sitting trying to think what this darn question was.
That happened to me one week too, and I don't remember when it was. It was towards the beginning.
I literally was like, "What in the heck?" I was looking down my phone a lot. I literally was on ChatGPT, looking up questions. I swear to you. But
I know when I texted you earlier asking who had the question for this week, and I said that I had one, and I was going to write it down for next week. Well, I never did that. And
hey, we're professionals.
I don't remember what it was. So we're still getting back into the flow of things with the podcast. It's been a little while.
100%. I've already had 3 guys be like, dude, you need guests, holler at me. I'm like, dude, anybody can come on. If you watch this, you want to come holler at us.
No doubt.
Just talking.
Well, this was a lot of fun too, guys. So I mean, if this is something we want to do more often, I'm in. Let's make it happen.
Absolutely. One thing I will say about you is that you taught me the most important piece of coaching advice that I've ever heard. And I'm not saying it because we're talking right now. You told me on my first, I'll never forget this. You'll tell me on my first day that I was working upstairs at ODU. You said, if I could give you, we were in the offensive meeting room, your office. You said, one piece of advice is just to be a sponge. And I've taken that with me everywhere that I've been. So, I know we don't have the question, and I'm not trying to end it.
Well, that's a good question right there. What's the best piece of coaching advice you've gotten?
But I mean, that was it. And I've literally taken that everywhere that I've been, and I appreciate you for that. And,
absolutely. I remember that.
It was a lot of fun too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we did. I think the one thing, and at times we all say we do it, no problem, is, there's no job too small for anybody. It doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter what your title is, doesn't matter anything, right? And I forget the quote right now, but somebody, anybody, nobody, everybody, and again, I don't know the quote, so I won't say it, but basically any job anybody can do. And if nobody does it because everybody thought they'd do it, it never gets done. And that was one thing, actually, Rap, you talk about ODU. I remember us sitting there, and it was all of us, right? It was all the student assistants, all of us sitting there. And Coach Wilder came in after a team meeting, and we were getting ready for a team meal. And Coach Wilder was like, hey, I need those chairs picked up. And one of the new guys was like, man, I don't want to do that. And I was like, boys, get out of the way. Let me do it. If you don't want to do it, that's fine. And that's just kind of how I've always been. And I'm glad at least you got one thing from me, Rap. I didn't instill much information down to you, but at least one thing, baby.
Yeah. Those were, I mean, we could probably have a whole episode on just like that kind of, like the ODU days. I mean, some of it, like, you couldn't believe it unless you were there.
Yeah.
Like,
we'd have to have a PG-13 version too.
Yeah,
some of it was.
I remember when we were like cutting out the name cards for all the new kids for the depth chart, and it taking us like hours because we couldn't get the font right and we couldn't get the size of it right. And man, it was just wild. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. And like I said,
watching film and the screen would cut off and go up because it was an automatic screen.
Yeah. But yeah, be a sponge. I've had younger coaches ask, what's piece of advice, new head coaches, whatever. And that's what I tell them. Like, there's always something that you can learn from everybody. Obviously, in the coaching world, you can learn how to, be a better coach. You can learn scheme. You can learn all that stuff. But there's so many, right? There's so many other things that you can take from people, how to handle yourself. I learned a ton from Coach Wilder with that, like, how to handle yourself with media. How do you handle yourself on the sideline? I use the arm around you, cover the mouth all the time when things aren't great, just little things like that. And, I don't know if I would necessarily try and pick up things from everybody that I work with or see or whatever, if you wouldn't have taught me that. So I appreciate you for that.
Absolutely, buddy. Absolutely.
Caden, what you got? Best coaching advice?
There's a ton, because I am a product of those I've worked for, and I'll say that a lot. Definitely, I like both what y'all said, and I did my video about how to be a good assistant, and I had both those things on there. But yeah, I definitely go with what Coach Watkins said is no job is too small. No job's too small, and do more than what is asked, and that's literally, I have like several things that I tell my offensive linemen like every spring and summer, like we go through it. And the first thing on there is finish, second one is care, and the third one is do more than it's asked. So if you can do those things, you can be a pretty good darn player. You can be a pretty good darn coach. So definitely. But the funniest thing I ever got was when I was at Gardner-Webb. The defensive coordinator said, "So you want to be a football coach?" And I was like, "Yes, sir." He's like, "You're crazy." Like, and I'm sorry, I'm ready for like all this knowledge, right? And you think I'm a college kid, like y'all talking like exactly who I was, student assistant, and I'm ready. I just want to learn, right? And he's like, "You want to be a football coach?" And I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "You're crazy." He said, "First thing you need to know about being a football coach, throw out all logic. Throw it out, because nothing will make sense. You have a kid that is supposed to be this, isn't that. He's supposed to be here, isn't there. You rep it, looks great in practice, messes it up in the game. All logic, throw it out, and then get to coaching." So that was like one of my first lessons in getting into the coaching profession. So shout out to Travis Cunningham. He was the linebacker coach at App, but that staff got let go. So he's looking for a job now. But great man, great mustache. So
that's what makes a man.
Yeah.
But Coach Watkins, thank you again for coming on, man. It was great to see you, even though virtually. Appreciate you spending some time with us, and like you said, we definitely need to do it again.
Absolutely. It was great, Rap. And Coach Tatum, thank you for having me on. It was a lot of fun. So definitely need to chop it up, get on the whiteboard, and just have at it.
Yeah,
absolutely,
for sure. All right, well, Coach, hey, we're gonna go ahead and sign off. I'm gonna let I'll kind of sign us out, Rabbit. You want to go ahead and do your deal? You got anything for the folk before we let them go?
keep learning, keep doing it for the kids. I might add be a sponge for my guy, Coach Watkins, too. So
There you go.
There you go.
Hey, man. Hey, Counterculture Podcast for Coach Rapping, for Coach Watkins. I'm Coach Ted. I appreciate for everybody for watching. Next week, same time, Thursday, 7:30. Not sure what we're talking about. We'll figure it out. Maybe we'll have a guest. Maybe it'll just be us going solo. But see y'all next week.